Hi, everyone. This is Ellen Madden. I'm happy today to introduce to you your facilitator for the session Moving Forward Online, Dr. Stephanie Korslund from our site group. Stephanie is an instructional designer with site and has abundant expertise in working in online environments to engage students. And we are just so happy to have her with us today to lead this session. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Korslund.
Thanks, Ellen. So, as Ellen said, I'm Stephanie Korslund, and today I'm going to be talking about moving forward online. We've had this idea for a while now, and I get this question like, why are we here? Like, what has brought us here to this point where we're thinking about what can we do better online? And I've been thinking about this in terms of there are a lot of things that you can do online in your online class. And sometimes everything you can do is so overwhelming in terms of the options and the ways that you can do things. And I know that with this transition last spring and even this fall for some people, for a lot of people, this was their first time teaching online. And so when we were first transitioning, if you attended Sophie over the summer, we were just trying to help you get your course online, we were hoping for the bare minimum, maybe a little bit more, but like get you online comfortable with what you're doing. But now we're starting to look beyond that. So what is something new that you can do that you're not already doing in your course? And so I've been thinking about this idea of how can I engage people in trying something new? And so my real goal today is to get you to try something new in your online course. And how I'm going to do that is basically I'm going to share some tools. Some you might be familiar with in Canvas, some you may not be, but I'm going to share different tools and ideas for using those tools inside of Canvas. Some of the tools you can also use in Teams if you prefer to teach in Teams. I know Denise teaches totally in Teams, so there are some of the tools that we talk about you can just use in Teams if you want to use them in Teams. But my challenge for you is to, think about, the things that you'd really like to do. Maybe things you've done in your face-to-face class that you haven't found a way to do online, or something you haven't tried before. But my goal is to get you to try something new. And then, so you might know that this is actually a two-part series. So in this first part, I'm going to just, talk about these different tools. You can ask me questions about things. You can, tell me about things you'd like to try, and we can kind of think through some ideas. But then after you leave this session, I want you to go out and try something new, and then come back and join us again on December 3rd. I'm pretty sure it's December 3rd, same time, and share what you've done in your class. Share with your colleagues the new thing that you tried, because I think I can sit here and tell you, and I will share, some ideas and show you how to use these tools. But I think, real collaboration and real innovation comes from sharing with each other the different things that we're doing in our classes and getting ideas from each other. So we may have some time at the end today to kind of start talking about that, but we'll come back on December 3rd, the ideas that will come back then, and, really share what you've tried in your classes. The pitfalls and the highs and the lows. So with all of that said, I'm going to get started. So inside Canvas, there are a lot of tools that you're probably really familiar with. There is some things like discussions and assignments and quizzes. These are probably all tools that you are currently using to engage your students online. What I'm going to do is talk about some other tools beyond these tools for engaging students, or how you can use other tools along with these tools to engage your students in your course. One tool that I really like for engaging students online is this tool called Collaborations. And what Collaborations does is it allows for either students or instructors to create a shared document to work on from Canvas. There are two ways that this shared document can be created. It can be created with Google Docs, and it can be created with Office 365. Now, if a group chooses to create a Google Docs document, everyone has to have a Google account in order to be able to access that document. If you do an Office 365 collaboration, that's automatically going to connect to the university account that we have because we have Microsoft accounts. So I generally recommend using the Office 365 collaboration over the Google Docs collaboration, but some people I know prefer Google Docs over Office 365. And so I do want to let you know there are both options. Now, when you create a new collaboration, you're just going to click Start a New Collaboration, and you'll see that you can choose how you're going to connect. So is it going to be Google Docs or is it going to be Office 365? When you choose Office 365, you actually will have a choice of the type of collaboration that you want them to work on. So it can be a Word, it can be an Excel file, it can be a PowerPoint. The great thing about doing a collaboration is it's a way to connect sort of those, documents that you want everyone to work on back to your Canvas course site. So ways that I have seen collaborations so far work are, I've had an instructor who wanted to do course signups. And traditionally people, when they want to create a wiki page inside of Canvas, they might use the pages feature inside of Canvas. So inside Canvas, you might know that you can make a page, a wiki page, where students can edit that specific page. It's a function, it's an option that you can turn on to do that. The problem with using pages as a wiki page is that only one person can edit that page at a time. So that can, leads to some issues if multiple people are on at the same time and want to create edits, because those edits will clash against each other. So the nice thing about using collaborations is that you can create a wiki page with say a Word document. Everyone can edit that, and those edits can happen simultaneously. So you don't have to worry about there being missed pieces or things being dropped because two people were editing at the same time. With Word, people can, when they're editing, lock a certain section out while they're editing that section, but the document in general will still be available for collaboration by multiple people at the same time. So you can set up the collaboration. You can set the collaboration up in a few different ways. You can set it up where you add individual people. You can add your entire class. So let's say you want them to do like signups for a group project, or you want them to sign up for Times with you. You want them to collaborate on some notes in class. Add the entire class to a collaboration document and have them do that. The other type of collaboration is a group collaboration. And when you do a group collaboration, you'll actually have to create an individual document for each group. If you add several groups to the same document, they will all have access to that one document. So if you want to have separate documents for each group, you're going to actually want to create separate documents for each group. And you'll see, like in my current collaborations, that's how I have currently set this up, is I have a group 1 and a group 2, and they are each separate documents. By you setting that document up, you become an owner of that document. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to edit or add things to that document, but you become an owner, meaning that you can go in there and look at the progress that students have made in working on that document. One of the uses that I see the potential for here with these like collaborative documents and these group documents is pairing this with a Zoom breakout room. So I've been working with an instructor who has been sending students these documents and they go off into these breakout rooms and they each have their own document that they're working from, but they work as a group to answer the questions and then later they have to submit it. And I was thinking, what's a better way that this could be done? And I thought, you know, collaborations would be a great way because he can set up the collaboration for each group to have that shared document. Inside the breakout room, they can pull up the document on their screen, they can share it, someone can edit it, or they can all work on it at the same time. Then they can end their session, they can go back into the main room because the instructor is the owner of the, also an owner of the document. The instructor can pull up the individual documents inside of Zoom and share, you know, each group's thoughts. This is a great way they can have each team talk about what they talked about in the breakout room, but this is another way that they can collaborate on something inside of a breakout room. Now, I know that there are whiteboards that can be used in breakout rooms. The downfall I see of using the whiteboard inside of Zoom is that once you close the room, that whiteboard disappears from being able to instantly see it. You can save it and you could have your students share that image and then you could show the images that the students have shared and you'll have access to those images after the entire meeting closes. But if you want immediate access, it's really difficult to share those things. Whereas something like a Canvas collaboration allows you to share that information right away because you can pull it up right on your screen and look at it together. So that's one really neat tool inside of Canvas. You can pair a Canvas collaboration with an assignment. They don't work seamlessly in terms of you can't just search for a collaboration and turn it automatically into assignment. You actually have to set up an assignment separately. And I've done that here. So the way you would set up a collaboration assignment is you would first set up that collaboration. And then for the actual submission of that collaboration, you would set up a file upload assignment. And when you set up a file upload assignment on the student side, and I will pull this up. On the student side, what they will see is this ability to submit the assignment. So they can actually go in and they don't have to download the document from Word and then re-upload it. What they can actually do is they can find Office 365 in the submissions. And then they can, once they get to their Office 365, there will be a Canvas folder. And inside the Canvas folder, they will see any classes that use Office 365. So for example, I'm in my Sandbox course, my test student is in my Sandbox course. And so here is that, you know, my collaborative document that I had back in my course, I can actually choose this document and attach this file. So there was no downloading and uploading, you know, at all. I can just go and find it and submit that assignment that way. And then on the instructor view, they will be able, as an instructor, you will be able to see that once it goes through here, the submission. So I have this submission here. I can actually go in here and look at so I can look at the submission and it comes up. So that's really nice to be able to actually move it from collaborations into assignments where that document can then be graded. And I can even use, because of the way it was submitted with Office 365, it still sees it as a document that was submitted to the assignment. So I can still use the annotation features inside Crocodoc, inside of SpeedGrader to leave comments for students on that paper. So that is collaborations. Any questions about collaborations so far? I'm trying to check the chat and see if there's anything going on. Nope. All right. So another tool that I wanted to talk about today is groups. And I've already sort of started talking about groups when I talk about collaborations. Groups can be used in several different ways inside of Canvas. You might already be familiar with groups. You might have already set up a group inside of Canvas. Groups are set up by going to people and going and clicking on group set. And this is where you can create a title for your groups. When you create a title for the groups, that is going to be the name for all of the groups. Depending on how many groups you create, they will each then just have numbers next to them. So if you call it final project, it'll be final project 1, 2, 3, and so on. So you can decide how you want to call those groups. You can determine if you want them to self-assign, if you want them to, how many groups you want, how many students you want. But the actual function of groups functions differently depending on the different tools that you're using inside Canvas. Inside discussions, if you choose to use groups, what that does is if you mark the option group discussion, it means that the topic will be split by groups and each group will be able to talk on that topic separately. Inside of assignments, it's a little bit different from discussions in that inside of assignments, if you create a group assignment, that allows the group to submit one project or paper or video or whatever it is that they're submitting as an entire group. You can decide whether you want to grade it individually or if you want to give the group a grade as a whole. But when it's a group assignment, that means the group as a whole is submitting that project. The other lesser known feature of groups is the actual groups tab or groups area inside of Canvas. Students who are part of groups will be able to click on groups and see all the groups that they are in. As an instructor, if you want to visit a student group inside of Canvas, what you do is you actually go to the group area inside of people and you click on visit group homepage. And this will allow you to actually visit the groups area. Now, the group area, and a lot of students don't even know that this exists. The group area is a space for students to collaborate in their groups with each other. They have several of the tools that are available in the main Canvas course site inside of their group. So there are discussions where they can create their own discussions and have their own discussions. There are files where they can share things among each other. There's the conference tool. Conferences, if you're not familiar with it, is similar to Zoom or Teams meetings in that it allows students to meet in a webinar format with a tool called Big Blue Button. So that's just, so they could potentially use that tool. I would still probably recommend Zoom or Teams meetings over that, but they could use that. And then there's collaborations. So maybe you have assigned them a group project and they are going to work on a paper together. So they can actually create their own collaboration from their group and then create that paper and work on it together. And then they can submit it, you know, just like I showed with that collaboration assignment, they can pull that paper up and share it that way. One unique thing about, you know, the groups page is that you can actually create assignments for groups inside of the groups pages. So they can create their own pages to be shared, and you can see like the projects that they're developing, but you can also create assignments for your students inside of this. Now, again, it doesn't automatically link over to the main Canvas site. You would have to find a way to connect it, either by making a no submission assignment where you're going to the groups page and evaluating it, or, you know, having them submit a link so that you can see their work. But one really neat thing that I like about groups is this idea of doing some sort of like peer-to-peer group work where the groups are in charge of teaching each other concepts. So for example, maybe you're covering several chapters a week in a textbook, and, you know, one chapter a week, it's the responsibility of the students to teach each other the concepts in that chapter. So you can set it up where my colleague Vanessa likes to call these group projects without the headache, where students are assigned work to do, but are only responsible for their own work. So they're assigned to read everything, but then responsible for teaching others in their group just sections that they're assigned to. They can teach these things either through Zoom, or in the example we have here, a recorded video. And then students can engage in a discussion on the discussion board, asking, you know, questions about the concepts that that person was responsible for, and each person can rotate and they can talk about these things. And then there can be a final reflection piece, which is that piece that the student is graded individually on, where that student is tying everything together, the things that they read, the things that they watched, the things that they discussed with the group, and tying that together in sort of a reflection piece. So this activity combines the group pages along with group discussions, and potentially using, depending on if you're going to have them record or do synchronous meetings, they would either use something like Kaltura or Zoom to meet. But I really like this idea of using the groups area to get students collaborating with each other, because a lot of times students don't know where they can meet to actually talk about these things with each other. Another way that this can be done outside of Canvas is if you're using Teams, you can set up groups. You can set up a class team inside of Teams and create private channels for each group. And then the students could meet there to collaborate and share documents and files and have meetings that way. So if you're working outside of Canvas and you want to use Teams, it is possible in Teams to do that. But this would be a similar feature to that private channel that you find in Teams. Another unique use of groups that I have seen is this idea of journaling. We want to, you know, there's no real blogging tool inside of Canvas. We could make a page where they could blog on, or we could request them to, you know, do a discussion and discussion board. But there's no real blogging tool or journaling tool inside of Canvas. One way you can sort of create that journaling tool inside of Canvas is with the groups. So in this case, you might create, if it's going to be like a private journal, so where, you know, students are doing reflections, or maybe a lab journal where they're just answering questions for themselves. You could create groups where each student is in their own group. So then they would have their own group space where they could then, you know, create pages where they are, you know, writing their assignments, and you as the instructor could go in and evaluate what they're writing, their reflections, their journals, their lab reports, what have you. This is a really unique way that you can use the groups to your advantage, because there is that lack of a journaling or blogging tool inside of Canvas.
Hey, Stephanie.
Yes.
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate spot to ask, but we have a question in the chat.
Sure.
And I'll let you read the question, and maybe Brooke can kind of further discuss, but it sounds like there's some issue with trying to set assignments to specific groups, but not have them all due on the same day, because in some classes, groups of students are coming different days. So assignments are due different days for different groups.
Okay. So an assignment cannot be assigned to a specific group. For example, if groups are created based on the day students attend, the only way to distinguish their assignment due date is to type in each individual student's name. Is there a workaround for this? Maybe this is answering my question.
Yes, you started talking and she thought maybe it was, but.
Yeah, so there's not a way that I know of to, like, if you have like sections in a class that are meeting different days, you can, all right, so I will say this, you can set up groups so that groups only include certain sections or certain people. So you could set up like one set, like when I have, and I'll go back to my course. I apologize. I'm not in enough courses, I don't think. You could conceivably, and this is a huge workaround, but you could say, okay, this is going to be my section 1 groups, and I am going to create these groups manually. And so I'm going to add a group, and I'm going to call it section 1A. Okay. Then I can put, I know that Tracy is in section 1 and Travis is in section 1. All right, then I have another group set, and I'm going to call it section 2. And I'm going to create a group, and I'm going to call this section 2A. And I know that Tommy is in section 2. This is a lot of work ahead of the assignment. You could then have multiple assignments where you're just assigning certain groups to that assignment, because if you select groups and you select certain groups and those students aren't in those groups, they should not be assigned to that assignment. I haven't done enough testing on this to be certain of it, but that might work. But again, in this scenario, you would have to have multiple assignments for this setup. And that's probably not what you want. You probably want to contain it all in one assignment. but that might be an option there.
Are you thinking about the assignment being in the group or just an assignment in Canvas?
Assignment in Canvas.
Yeah, that I don't think that works, because when I go to the assign to box for my assignment in Canvas, you can't pick a group. You
Right.
can pick everybody or you can type in names.
Right, but if you have a group assignment and it, like, let's say it's section 1, if only Tommy and Travis, or Tracy and Travis, are in that section 1 group, and maybe I have, another group, here. If I put Vanessa in this second one,
Mhm.
I believe that in this scenario, and I haven't tested this, so don't quote me on it, but I believe if I went in and then chose section 1, because section 2 is not chosen, anyone in section 2 will not be assigned to that assignment. Does that
Okay.
make sense? What I'm saying is you could probably do it, but then you would have to have multiple assignments where group sets are assigned to specific assignments. You wouldn't be able to do it all in one assignment.
Okay.
It's a very odd workaround. And again, I'm not sure if it would work because I haven't tested it.
Yeah. I
But-
mean, at that point, it's no different than typing in the 26
Yeah.
names and then assigning to everyone else. It's just, I have a long laundry list of things that really annoy me about Canvas, and this is one of them.
Yeah, and I understand that. And I like to try and think of workarounds. I wish there was a simpler one. That would be a great suggestion for the Canvas community. You might even see if it's already on the community, because I'm sure
It sounded like it's been around for a while, but
yeah.
yeah.
Canvas has their own priorities, and even though they have a community that votes, they still choose, what they want when it comes to like moving things forward.
All right. Well, I'm glad that I'm not missing something that's super obvious, but every
Yeah,
time I type
not
in
that
all
I
these
can,
things, I get annoyed all the
not that I can think of.
time. Thanks.
Stephanie, this is Ellen. I'm just wondering if you, and I don't combine, well, I have before, but I don't typically combine sections into one
Mm-hmm.
site. But if you were to create multiple group sets and you designated group sets according to your sections, could you not create the assignment? You put the assignment in twice or 3 times, depending on how many different days those sections matter, how many different sections. And then you would assign the assignment just to the group set that was for section 1. And then another assignment for group set section 2.
That might actually answer Brooke's question, because you might be able to. So here we go, Brooke. You actually can. So if you assign section 1, like let's say I have 2 sections.
Well, hang on, time out. They're not different sections. It is one section.
One section.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
it's not that I had different sections of a class. It was one section
But-
of 52 students.
You can actually create sections in your course.
Oh, this could solve it.
So you can actually create sections in your course by going to settings and going to sections and adding a section and creating sections and putting people into sections.
Okay.
Try that.
Okay, I'll try that. They've got stuff coming up next week, so I'll try that and see if that solves it.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Stephanie, for joining us today. But yeah, thanks, Ellen. That was a great idea. That got us. We got this idea solved here. Awesome. All right. So that's groups. So any other questions about groups or collaborations? If we don't have any questions. All right. So the next sort of things that I want to talk about are all third-party tools that you can integrate into Canvas. The first one I want to talk about is Class Notebook. So Class Notebook is a tool that you can add from navigation. It'll be down below here, and you can add it to your course by dragging it up. Class Notebook is a tool that integrates OneNote with your Canvas course. And so with Class Notebook, you can actually set up a Class Notebook. It will use the OneNote tool. It'll actually take your students outside of Canvas to work in the tool. And what this looks like is, and my windows, I got so many windows open here that I can't find this tab. Here we go. It'll actually take your students, when they click on the Class Notebook, it'll ask them to log in. Then they'll see this view or whatever homepage view that they have. So Class Notebook is another way that you can integrate journals into your course. So say you don't want to create a group set where each student is in their own individual group and you have 50 group pages to go through. You can actually set up a Class Notebook and the students can access that notebook. And then once they're added, they'll have these individual spaces and you can decide what they want, what you want them to have. I know that like Denise uses OneNote for lab reports. I've seen in English them use it for journaling, but you can set it up so that students can have that space to do those sorts of activities. One really unique use that I have seen of the Class Notebook is this idea of, we have an instructor in integrative studies, Rhonda Davis, who is teaching her course in a hybrid flexible fashion. So she has students in her class where some of them are face-to-face, some of them are synchronously online, and some of them are asynchronously online. And she's managing all three groups at once. So in her face-to-face class, she will provide a prompt to her students. And, you know, they might have this page open up on the projector. Her students are in the face-to-face class. They will talk with a nearby neighbor, socially distanced style, on the prompt. Students who are online, either in breakout rooms or just by themselves, will respond to the prompt inside of OneNote, adding their ideas. So this allows students in the class to see the ideas of the students online. And then those ideas are shared with each other. And then I'm trying to remember. She then has the asynchronous students add their responses as they are able and add to that collaborative document. Students who are face-to-face can go back and add their own thoughts as well, but it becomes this sort of living document where students are able to work together on something and see different views. She says that it has really created a collaborative spirit that I've actually not seen in a normal semester. This is something that she just started trying this semester, and she's really enjoyed the outcome. There are some, you know, because of the group that she's working with, she has had some technical issues, but it seems now that those have worked themselves out. But that's one really unique way of using OneNote, where you've got your students who are both synchronous face-to-face and synchronous online, collaborating with each other and sharing ideas. And it's really neat, she says, when, you know, you can see those students adding their ideas and they're projected up and they can read them and, you know, provide feedback to each other. Another way that you can use this collaboration space in OneNote is, you know, another general, you know, reflective activity, you know, sort of pulling in that idea of a wiki or even a discussion board where you're prompting questions, having them do some research on something, coming back and sharing, and then maybe going and after they've, you know, shared their thoughts here, going back to their journal and, you know, doing a reflection on, you know, what they've collaborated on and the example activity. So there's a lot of potential for, you know, OneNote to be integrated inside of Canvas. But again, it's integrated in the way in that it's going to take you outside of Canvas to do it, but it provides you with that link to be able to do it. The one problem with this integration is the things that you see here, you will not be able to link in terms of grading back inside of Canvas. If you set up a OneNote class notebook inside of Teams, there is a way to set up assignments inside of a Teams team to grade things that are submitted in OneNote, but there's a very specific way you have to set them up. And it is a process. It can be done, but it's a process. All right. Let's see. Shannon, I see you have a question. Let me see if I can open it. All right, so if you get that error that your session has expired, what might happen in collaboration, Shannon, is that you're not currently logged into Microsoft 365. If you go back and re-log into Microsoft 365 and then go back into Canvas, that error should disappear. I've seen that a couple times. But yeah, that should fix that. Awesome. Another tool that easily integrates with Canvas is VoiceThread. VoiceThread actually integrates in a couple different ways. I think the easiest way to integrate it is through the assignments tool. What VoiceThread allows you to do, and I should actually just pull up the assignment that I created here. VoiceThread allows you to create a threaded discussion, but unlike a threaded discussion in a discussion board where you have text and they're going back and forth across text, VoiceThread allows you to actually put an image or a video or a presentation and then have students comment on that presentation or video or critique, and they can actually leave different comments. Those comments can be audio comments, they can be video comments, they can be text comments if you want to allow that. There are a lot of really great uses for VoiceThread that we have seen at the university. I think one of the, I think it's really great for when students need to be able to demonstrate something, and then for an instructor be able to provide feedback at certain points on that demonstration. Setting up a VoiceThread assignment for that, where the student demonstrates a process and then the instructor can give feedback on that process. We see this in nursing with the nursing students who might have to do certain sorts of exams on test volunteers, and they do those exams and they demonstrate, you know, the different techniques, and then the instructors are able to evaluate students on the techniques that they're demonstrating. So that's, you know, one use. This could be used for maybe teacher demonstrations, where, you know, students have to do a teaching demo in education. So they record their teaching demo, and then students can provide feedback, or you as the instructor can provide feedback on the student's teaching demonstration. So that's another use. There is actually a couple different types of VoiceThread assignments. One is the create a VoiceThread, which is the ideas that I just talked about were among the line of creating a VoiceThread. But there's also commenting on a VoiceThread. So you as the instructor could put something up. It could be your own presentation. It could be a problem. It could be an image, and then the students leave comments on that. And you can decide how many comments you want them to leave. So for example, maybe you're teaching an art history course and you want students to, evaluate paintings. You're looking at, different techniques. And so you want them to evaluate techniques. And so you share with them 5 different images, and you say, I would like you to, evaluate 2 of these images, and we're going to evaluate on the techniques that we've been talking about in class using these examples. And so students have the choice to determine what they want to evaluate on, and they can leave a voice comment on 2 of those and then submit that assignment. So there's a lot of potential for how VoiceThread could be used to engage students in interacting with each other, where they're actually, it's not just that text on a screen. There seems to be this thing that when people are actually talking with each other, there's this connection that's built. And when we're all online all the time, sometimes that connection is missing. And so VoiceThread kind of builds back that connection. Now, if you do want to have students submit an assignment, and then you want them to be able to evaluate each other's assignments, there's an additional step that you have to take in making that happen with VoiceThread. First, you would set up the assignment inside of assignments. The student, when they submit the assignment, there's this box that they have to check that allows others to see it. But then as the instructor, you actually have to, in modules, go and add VoiceThread, a link to the VoiceThread in the module, so that they can actually see the assignments, because they will not have access in the assignment to other students' assignments. The only way is by adding the external tool to the modules page. All right, so that is Class Notebook and VoiceThread. Those are both already integrated into Canvas. The last tool that I wanted to talk about that you can integrate into Canvas is Flipgrid. And so I know that Shannon and Ellen are big proponents of Flipgrid in the classroom. We've had an uptick of people using Flipgrid this semester in their classes because it is a great way to get students engaged in conversation. It's really easy to add. You do have to add it separately inside of your Canvas. You won't just be able to find it under your settings and navigation. To actually add Flipgrid to your course, you have to go through apps and find Flipgrid. This is if, and when I talk about this integration, there's actually 2 different ways that you can have Flipgrid in your course. I should say that first. You can do this integration here that I'm walking you through. If you do the Canvas integration of Flipgrid, what this allows you to do is actually create an assignment that is a Flipgrid assignment, and students will record inside of Flipgrid, and they can even record comments on other students' Flipgrids, and those assignments will actually show up inside of SpeedGrader in Canvas. That is one way to do it. You can also set up Flipgrid where you go externally to Flipgrid's website and sign up using your NKU account with Flipgrid. Flipgrid's owned by Microsoft, so you can use your NKU account. Sign up and create a Flipgrid outside of Canvas that you can then link or embed inside of Canvas. The difference between the 2 is that when you go outside and link into Canvas, those Flipgrid videos will not show up in SpeedGrader. So that's the main difference. You would have to go to Flipgrid to evaluate and then go back into your gradebook and add the grades in individually. You wouldn't be able to view the videos inside of SpeedGrader if you did it externally. But you can integrate, like I said, inside of Canvas and create an assignment. And this is, again, it's going to be similar to VoiceThread, and that once you have added the external tool, you would go to assignments and add it. Add it as that external tool here. So submission type external tool. And you would find it here. VoiceThread's at the bottom here. Flipgrid will be right here. When you add Flipgrid, you're first adding the tool, and then once you have added it, it will create that topic inside of Flipgrid for your students to then answer. One really creative way that I have seen this used is for peer review. So this is an example scenario of how this instructor set it up. I don't have the actual because privacy reasons, but for what this instructor did was they had students do elevator pitches inside of Flipgrid. And then the students are then responsible for evaluating each other's elevator pitches. So students submitted the assignment to Flipgrid, and then to set up the peer review aspect, because Flipgrid is an external tool, you can't do peer review in the same assignment because peer review and external tools do not play well together. So you actually have to create a separate assignment. So in this instance, what was done was there was a peer review assignment set up where students submitted the website URL for their Flipgrid video, and then they submitted that, and then there was the peer review, so that on the students' end, oh, it's still processing. On the students' end, what they see when they go to their side is, so here are the peers, they submitted the URLs. Now I can go and click on, so I was assigned Travis and Tracy. I can click on Tracy's, and there's her video, and I can click on that, and I can actually, oh, did I close this one? Oh, darn. Let's see if I can access the other one. Probably not. I didn't think okay, Travis is working. All right. So you would see the student's submission right there, and then they could leave a comment on the submission here. If you wanted a student to actually comment on the submission itself, like actually leave another voice comment in Flipgrid, they would have to go back to the original Flipgrid assignment and to access the Flipgrid, because you cannot link one Flipgrid assignment to another inside of Canvas if it was created in Canvas. You can't just grab this link and link it over. It'll give you this warning. It has to be accessed through Canvas. Why would you set up this separate assignment for review? You would do this in the case where you would want randomization among students, so that students aren't all responding to the same 2 people or 3 people who responded first. You want to make sure that everyone got a response, that's when you would probably set up something like the peer review to make sure that everyone got feedback on their pitches. So this would be more for this whole peer review process would be for like bigger stakes activities versus, you know, smaller like introduction activities or, you know, reflection activities done in a class. All right. Questions about class notebook, VoiceThread, or Flipgrid? I don't see any questions. All right. Are there other questions that I can answer about Canvas or things that you've been wanting to try in Canvas but aren't sure how to implement or integrate, or maybe you have an idea and you'd like to hear others' thoughts on how to integrate it or implement it in the course? Feel free to turn on your mic, ask a question. I'd like to hear some ideas. No. Wow.
Stephanie, do you have any update on the transition to new quizzes, which they simultaneously made both better and infinitely worse at the same time?
New quizzes. I do not know when we will officially fully be on new quizzes. I think at one point in time it was supposed to be 2021. I don't know if that has accelerated or been moved back because of the pandemic. I would have to look at the schedule. Obviously, you can use new quizzes now. There are some really great things, like you said, about new quizzes. There are also a lot of things. The thing about new quizzes, if you haven't explored new quizzes, for everyone else, if you've not explored it, it is, as you said, you know, there are a lot of really great things that they have added to it, but it is much more, there are a lot of things that have made it much more complicated compared to the current quizzes tool because of the way in which you can organize things. And right now, new quizzes is treated as an external tool. I do not know if it will remain like that when it's fully integrated or if it will be completely integrated and not that external tool piece, which will allow it to, I think, work more seamlessly with Canvas.
It really
Thanks, John, for
messed up-
joining today.
It really messed up mathematical typesetting.
Oh,
At this point, it is almost not functional for any quantitative discipline.
okay. That's good to know. And those are the sort of things that is we want to make sure Canvas knows so that they work on those issues before it becomes, you know, the main product that we're using for quizzing.
Yeah,
inside of
it's
Canvas.
super strange because, you know, classic quizzes has a LaTeX underpinning, which is great, and new quizzes does not.
Right.
And so there are some things that it will still accept some LaTeX code for, so you can get some of it, but you can't get all of it. And so I started in new quizzes and was just going to make myself adapt, and then hit where I needed to use p hat, and there's no hat notation.
Oh.
So it's useless.
Mhm. Other questions, ideas, thoughts? All right. I don't know if I was allowed an hour or an hour and 15, but I think we will wrap up here for today. I will be sending out a survey afterwards. What I'm going to ask again is, again, my goal is to get you to try something new in Canvas. I talked about a bunch of different things today, but you know, there is so much more that you can do in Canvas. And, you know, maybe your use is, you know, just, you know, you're not currently adding assignments. You want to add an assignment to your course. It doesn't have to be a complicated peer review assignment. You know, think about the things that we've talked about. Think about, the examples that I've gave and ways that you can use these things. But I'd really like to see you all back on December 3rd, sharing some ideas of things that you have tried in Canvas. So I'll send out a survey inviting you to share something that you'd like to try. I will invite you to work with one of our instructional designers in site, pair up. There are 6 of us now. We just added one person at the end of July and one person Monday this week. But there are 6 instructional designers to help you develop your course and, think about ideas for engaging students online. So we're always happy to help you any way we can, and, finding ways to make the things that you want to do work inside of Canvas. All right, thank you all so much for joining us today.